In this session, we're going to talk about putting your financial objectives into perspective. This is where we pivot. Heretofore, we've been talking about employment in your career, and we're going to move to personal finance and building wealth. Now, it's really important that I state this and you listen that I am not a financial professional. I teach and open eyes about career and personal finance with a focus on getting started early. Hopefully, I'm going to inspire you to learn and do more than most people do, and certainly more than you would have done if you had not come across this course. But to build comprehensive financial plans leading to great wealth, you need a licensed broker and advisor. They're worth their weight in gold if you get the right one. And I'm not that. They have information on financial instruments, strategy, taxes, and these are changing all the time. It's a moving landscape. But at your stage in life, getting started, having a basic plan, getting in the groove of living within your means, this course is a great starting point. Remember, to build success, there are two paths beyond your academics. One, obtain multiple job offers, not only as you exit campus and your formal education, but for every subsequent search over the span of your career. And then number two, launching a plan leading to financial independence through wealth creation. That spells freedom. And that is really our objective here, financial freedom and personal freedom. Financial independence is a lot easier to obtain if you start early and you start young. And we're going to have a lot more information in this second half all about that. So you have at your feet a big advantage if you dig into it. If you act and you learn on the kind of lessons that I'm about to teach. There are huge benefits. And the underlying secret, the TNT that creates a positive explosion in your life, it's the power of compound interest. And it's fueled by setting basic positive financial behavior, one of which is not amassing a lot of debt. Time is absolutely on your side if you don't squander this early advantage. Your 20s are critical. And we're going to illustrate the advantages of starting early and introduce an early plan to put into context and to be mindful of the following things. First off, and this is a big one, life expectancy at birth is changing. It's going up. People are living longer. In 1975, it was 72.6 years. In 2021, it rose to 77.8 years. People are, and you will live longer. You have to have the ability to fund your retirement without pulling a paycheck. And I know you're not thinking about it now. It's really unusual for people at your stage in life to be thinking about this. However, by making some behavioral investments in your future, it is really the wind to your back that's going to put you in a great place. So how are you going to produce income? Beyond your working years, no more paycheck. Hey, life costs money. Your primary source of funding, retirement, and financial independence has moved. It's moved from pensions, they call those defined benefits program. It's a benefit of working with an organization, to IRAs, 401ks, Roths, etc. We're going to dig into that. And those are called defined contribution plans. Defined benefit plans are set up by employers. They both fund and manage them for you. So you don't even have to think about it. Defined contribution plans, generally the employer sets these vehicles up, and then you decide if you're going to contribute, and then how much you're going to contribute, and if you're going to pull your money out early, and if you're going to go ahead and borrow against them. Those are all your decisions. Pensions are run by employers. They put the money in, and you work there for X number of years. The more you work there, the richer the pension, and they usually have a formula. Well, what you were making on average for the last 3 years or 5 years or whatever it is. And they put this formula together and you get a specific amount until you die. So you don't have to really worry about your latter years. And actually, you can go ahead and lower the amount that you're going to get while you're living. And then if your spouse outlives you, they would go ahead and the pension would keep moving for them until they die. And with people living longer, you can see the exposure these plans had. You had professional financial managers managing this whole system. But now it's up to you. This is a seismic shift in funding retirement. 2 generations ago, there were pensions. The generation that raised you, my generation, the baby boom, shifted from pensions to 401k. And once people started to use the 401k, whoop, pensions went away. The early evidence says people have struggled with this new plan, managing their own financial independence. And after all, they were never educated on this. And neither were you. And it's ironic that all of a sudden we have a generation struggling, and his education, the educational system, and I'm talking primary, secondary, and post-secondary, have they jumped up and gone ahead and filled this gap? No. So we're going to look at the previous generation as a case study and then use that for motivation so you can chart your course. Do you want to follow where they went, or do you want to go ahead and blaze a new and fresh trail? Now, government jobs and most union jobs have pensions. However, most people aren't employed in those sectors. They're employed in the private sector. So let's dig into that. Private sector pensions coverage in 1975 was 85% of companies. So most of the place you go to work, you were covered by a pension. But by 2005, that had dropped to only 33% of companies. And by 2013, it was only 18% of companies. So here's a chart. It shows by birth year the percentage of workers that are covered by a pension. All right, enough already. You can see that pensions are either going away or they're gone. So it's up to you. And we're back to where we started. Oh, and one moment of caution. For those of you who are going to enter the pension and or public sector jobs, these benefits are not what they used to be. Many plans are underfunded, and they are going to need to be adjusted, or they're in the process of being adjusted. And adjusted never is like they got better. They actually get worse. Because those who run them, they did not set enough money aside, or they decided to borrow against them. Therefore, the future outcomes are more fragile than the promise they initially made. And again, you're living longer. So you have to monitor those plans, and you might have to supplement them with your own wealth building accounts. Years ago, you didn't have to think about it, but now you do. So if you're going into a union job or let's say a government job, you're going to be a teacher or a firefighter, this work is still relevant because you may want to go ahead and actually you should build some wealth that if your pension plan goes ahead and gets turned down a little bit, you got it covered and you're on top of it. So let's circle back to the big picture. Why do you go to college? 1, you want to create a lifestyle that makes you feel happy, successful, fulfilled, and proud. What do you do for a living? What company do you work for? What's your title? What do you drive? Where do you live? How do you give back to community? How do you pursue your faith? Everyone has a different definition, but this lifestyle that makes you happy, successful, fulfilled, and proud. Number 2, and I know this is a review, we did this early in the course. Number 2, you want it to become debt-free over time. Certainly by the time you go into retirement, it should be completely debt-free. Number 3, you want to build income-producing assets. Now, for most of you, that's going to be a 401k, or you might have some supplemental accounts as well. And you want them to throw off more cash than the cost of you being you without eating into principal. So you never have to worry about outliving your money. And number 4, you want to do so while you still have your health and mobility. So you'll have enough discretionary time and discretionary money to follow your heart's desire. And that's freedom. You deserve that. Okay, if that's what you want, remember, how do you get there? Your income and earnings fuels this whole effort for you. So you want to earn multiple job offers when you search, and you want to thrive and advance professionally, and you want to replace the role efficiently if need be. Say I got laid off, you want to go ahead and find your next gig rather efficiently. And then you want to stay employable and employed over the arc of your career. Now, let me give you some sobering news about this, and I know this is a while away, but I want to pound this point home. It is much easier for you to get a job in your 20s and 30s than, say, in your 50s and 60s. But most people are going to have to work until they're 60 or mid-60s in order to be able to fund their retirement. So these are critical times. So they took a look at workers that were 50 years old or greater. 56% lost their job involuntarily. Either a job was eliminated or there was a layoff. 56% lost their job at least once. And only 10% of them ever got paid the same amount they had prior to this work action. That should have you going, oh my goodness, I've got to go ahead and prepare for this. This is another big reason to start young. And then you must be a bit abnormal, because normal is crazy out there. Most people are doing the wrong things. So with your personal economics, with your behavior, with you keeping in a position to be employed for your entire career, you got to be on top of it a little bit more than average people out there. And you need to understand the big picture. You need to start early. I'm talking at your first gig out of college. You can't squander your 20s. And you have to be wise with the money you earn. And you're going to learn from this course that at little tidbits here and there, most people aren't wise with the money they earn. And you can do better than the norm. Also, you want to avoid debt. You want to have a plan that you understand. And you want to navigate to financial independence over time. The good part, using the power of compound interest and starting early, then being consistent over the arc of your career, you're setting yourself up to grow significant wealth. And again, is it normal to get there? No. I'll give you a little bit more evidence. 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 78% say they're extremely or somewhat concerned about having enough money for retirement. These are people as they're approaching retirement. 66% say they estimate they're going to outlive their retirement funds. And boy, that's a fragile place to be. And then you need to protect your wealth that you do accumulate. So what I did was, to get us kicked off in this section on personal economics, I went ahead and ran a model on the student financial calculator. We're going to dive more into this in greater depth later on in the course. But I just wanted to get us started and show you what is possible. This is a high-level illustration. It shows an average student from Ohio University, which is a state school here in Ohio, and where I went and I taught. This student is an average student with average earnings. And they follow the 6 steps that you're going to learn shortly in this course. And they begin right out of college at their first job. And they're determined to get to financial independence. That's an intentional act. And they want to fully fund their wealth creation plan. They've got a basic plan, but they're committed to go ahead and funding it over the long term via 401k or a like instrument. And they want to be wise with the money they earn. And then they want to live within their means, and I'm going to dive into that in the next session. This is what's possible financially. That's what I'm trying to show you. Now, obviously, your mileage, can vary, and there's no guarantees while investing. But this illustrates what can happen based on historical lessons. Again, we'll teach you more about this in subsequent sessions, but growing wealth is an intentional act that you can do. You can nail this, and I bet these numbers really surprise you. So let's take a look at the model, the Student Retirement Calculator. It's free. It's on my website at LearnEarnRetire.com. Now, warning, and you got to listen to this. Nothing can calculate exactly what the future will bring, this calculator or anything else. There's too many variables. This is designed as an illustration of what's possible. Your results may vary. This is for educational purposes only, but it's pretty exciting, and I think it'll inspire you to reach out in other places and learn more about this. And hopefully it motivates you to get started early. That is a very, very big deal. And be consistent. And again, more on that in future chapters. Here's my hope. That this potential outcome motivates you to begin early, be consistent over the arc of your career. So let's dig in. We took earnings information from payscale.com. Now, this is the largest database of post-college compensation that I've ever found, but I think it's the largest in the world. And it lists from every school, 2-year or 4-year colleges. And this is information is reported from alumni. So this is all accurate information. I wanted to show you that I'm just not making this stuff up. They have a thing called the College Earnings Report. So if you Googled PayScale College Earnings Report, it's easy to find. They keep moving the button for that on their site, so a Google search may be the best way to do it. When you go to the website, it's all free, and it's an excellent tool. In the first graphic, we input basic information from PayScale, and we know that entry-level compensation for this average student with an average career at Ohio University is $55,700. Mid-career, around age 42, it's $98,400. We're assuming you're going to start your career at 22, but like if you're coming out of a 2-year college, you may be starting your career at 20. If you go on to graduate school, you may be starting at 24. If you maybe change your majors and you're adding an extra year to college, you may start at 23. All of those yellow cells you can go ahead and change and make adjustments so it's perfect and relevant to you. You plan to contribute to your plan until your retirement. So let's say it's age 65, or punch in another age if you want. And the yellow cells, again, is where all the changes are made. And you can run 5 different scenarios. So you can say if I retire at 50, 55, 60, 65, or 70, and just see what the difference is. At a retirement age, you have no more paycheck. So it's all on you. And you begin to withdraw. You begin at your first career job with a 6% contribution to your 401k. And your goal percentage, what eventually you want to get to, is 15%. The reason for that is most experts, when I've read their books, they say, and they all seem to line up on this, 12 to 15%. So you're young. I say swing for the fences and go for 15%. One of the first things you do is factor in the employer match. They vary. Some employers, they'll give you, for every dollar you put in to the 401k, they'll match 50 cents. Okay, that's a pretty good deal. Some employers, for every dollar you put in, they'll match $1 up to 6% contribution in your plan. So they all have different formulas. This one is one of the most popular ones, and that was what my last employer did before I left the workforce. I mean, that's terrific because all of a sudden it's 100% return on your money the year you put your money in. The first column in red shows your employer contributes 100% of the first 6% you put in to your 401k, the employer match. And we'll dig into more of this later. You estimate that the stock market will gain on average about 7.5% over your career. Now, that number's up in the air. People, some people say 10, some people say 12%. I tend to be a little bit more conservative, and we'll give you some links and resources where you can go ahead and get some opinions on this, or you can Google it, and that's an important number, the growth over the arc of your career. And no one can predict the market exactly. Don't let anyone tell you they can. We show you that we put the employer match in on top of the contribution. We figured, look, some people are going to get to 15% without an employer contribution. So if your employer does give you a contribution and you got to 15% and then layered that on top, the icing on the cake, wow, would that be good? And that's what we're going to show you here. This average student with an average career has over $5.3 million at retirement. If the employer didn't match, or if you funded an IRA because you work in the gig economy, so you were taking some money out and putting 15% away in an IRA, you have over $3.7 million at retirement. This blows most students' mind, but you want to know something? Most people underfund it or don't fund it at all when they get started after college. And you need to go ahead and step up on that. And if you're currently in the workforce, they have periods, usually once a year after the first of the year, that they call open enrollment. You can make a change. So if you started at like 2%, you go, oh, now that I know this, I want to crank it up. You can go ahead and do so. But how do you relate to $5 million or $3.5 million? I mean, it's really hard. You say, that's a lot of money. I know that. But I mean, what does it really mean to you? You know what you can relate to really well? Your previous, your last year you're in the workforce, your compensation. Graphic 3 shows cash flow in retirement versus your working income. It estimates that you were making $142,000 a year during your last year of employment. And now, welcome to retirement. You can pay yourself $240,000 a year for the rest of your life. You get a substantial raise. And what did we say earlier? You're going to have all your debt gone by then too. Yeah, that's enough discretionary time and discretionary money to follow your heart's desire. If your employer didn't match, or you're part of the gig economy and you're paying yourself $167,000, a raise again. But isn't this too good to be true? This is what people worry about. They go, this sounds too good. Am I going to run out of money if I take all that money out? You know, actually you shouldn't. The graphic 4 estimates your portfolio gains over time, and this can be done. Your wealth over your career is going to keep building. And one day you can enjoy the fruits of your labor via this defined contribution program, again, usually starting with the 401k you have at work. If you manage it well and you're consistent over the long haul, again, no guarantees. These are broad estimates and assumptions. It shows you what is possible. Are you ready to dig in? I mean, you can really do this. This can be yours. See you next time.